Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Monday, July the 28th. And welcome to our commentary. We're back, back from a little trip there to East Texas. I'll tell you something about East Texas. It's lovely, but the humidity is very high. And same temperatures as here, but man, when it's like in the 90s in East Texas and you get that humidity, you really feel it. You really feel it. But anyway, great trip. Had a good time. We're back on the saddle, as they like to say. Look, I think the story of the day, and I was listening to talk radio and to the news driving back today. The story is clearly this trade deal that the Trump administration has signed with the European Union. I guess they did it on Sunday, but today we're getting more and more information from it. It's a really stunning deal. I mean, number one, we're going to be selling over $700 billion of energy to the European Union. That's a big deal for a state like Texas or Pennsylvania with fracking, or Alaska, Louisiana, Oklahoma, states that have energy sources. That's the huge deal for many states. We're also going to be selling them a lot of military supplies, sophisticated military supplies. That is, I was listening to on the way in today. A lot of it is just going to be passed on to Ukraine. So, that's another big plus. So you're going to be, selling and exporting more military equipment. That's a lot of jobs as well back here. And then they're going to be making about $600 billion of investments in the United States. Now, I'm not exactly sure where, and those are the details I don't know right now, but that's a lot of money. I don't care what they invested in. That's a lot of money. And I think that the interesting thing to me, I was listening to an economist today, and I think the interesting thing to me is the reason that Trump was able to get these deals that, frankly, other administrations had not been able to get, is because of the attitude. And the attitude on the part of the Trump administration was, hey, look, we've got the biggest market in the world and you want to sell here. So if you want to sell here, there's going to be a little price you got to pay, and you're going to have to let our products be sold in your country as well. So this equality of trade is something that I think, you see in this deal. I was listening to another economist today, and he was saying that the biggest winner out of this trade deal are American exporters, who are now going to be able to sell more and more in Europe that they couldn't sell before because they were restricted by tariffs and so on. So look, I think this is a huge plus for President Trump, just an absolutely big plus for President Trump. And I think you got to give the guy credit. I don't care what your political corner is. We all want the American economy to succeed. So you got to give President Trump a lot of credit here for going out there and making a deal that will help the American economy. There's no question about it. I mean, it's just simply no question about it. This is going to be good for the United States. And again, I think, there's also one with Japan that was done, I guess, a few days before. That's another huge economy. So you got the European Union, you've got Japan. I'm not sure about South Korea. That's one that we should be making soon if we haven't already. And then, of course, the big one with China, which I think will fall into place after this one. So, I mean, my goodness, this is really moving the ball forward. I mean, this is the kind of trade deals that for years we thought, we could make. And here we are. We are making them. And again, the primary reason we're making these trade deals is because of the attitude of the Trump administration. And that attitude is, hey, look, you want to do business in the United States? This is what you have to do. This is the price you have to pay to do business in the United States. And I think that entire attitude was conveyed to many of these countries, and they said, okay, let me know how we play. How do you play? And Trump said, this is how you play. And so far, so good. Now, obviously, there are going to be critics, and, there are going to be people who say this and this and this and that. And there's always something to criticize. But I think overall, you got to feel pretty good as to what this means for the United States, because it is really a good deal for the United States. I just don't know what else to say, when you've got these deals falling in place. The other thing, too, that I think a lot of the critics were calling for was inflation. They were saying that this was going to create inflation. Well, not really, because what you're seeing here is that both sides are playing. Normally, when you have inflation is when one side is raising the cost of doing business. But here, both sides are playing. So, everybody should be able to take care of their costs. And then, of course, another message that the Trump administration is sending, you don't pay any tariff if you produce in the United States, if you manufacture in the United States. So if you bring your plant here, you don't have to worry about a tariff. And speaking of that, we just learned today that here in Texas, there's going to be a huge manufacturer. I think Tesla is behind it, or Elon Musk is behind this thing, where we're going to manufacture more chips in the United States, and specifically here in Texas. So that's another big boost to the American economy. I was always very concerned about chips and chips manufacturing, because so much of it was in Taiwan. And when you've got all your chips in one place, if you pardon the expression, then more vulnerable in the event that something happens to Taiwan. But if we're making it and we're developing our own production, I just feel a lot safer about the whole thing. So we'll see what happens. But these are great moves by the Trump administration, and I think he's going to get a lot of credit for it. I think the American people are going to reward this kind of leadership on the world stage. And that's the other thing. When you see Trump with these world leaders, he's in charge. That's just what it is. He is in charge. And you can see it in the body language. You can see it in the news conference today with the Prime Minister of the UK, yesterday with the President of the European Union, with the leaders of Japan when the deal was made. Trump is in charge, and I think everybody realizes that. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing for the United States. I'm hoping that we can get a Canadian deal done soon. I don't know why we're behind. I was listening to a podcast from Canada, and they're angry up there with the Prime Minister that he hasn't been able to work something out. I hope they can, because we could certainly use some of that oil in Alberta to help us sell, or Alberta could actually sell oil to the Europeans, which would help the Canadian economy. So we're hoping that a deal can be made with Canada soon, and hopefully this deal with the European Union will accelerate the possibility of a deal with Canada, and that should wrap it up as far as all of the strong allies and members of NATO signing up for an economic trade deal. I have a post over at the American Thinker today talking about what is happening to the Democrat Party, the state of the Democrat Party. And the name of my post is "How Low Can You Go?" And that's exactly right. How low can you go? In this latest Wall Street Journal poll, I mean, they're down to their lowest level in 35 years. They're simply not connecting with the American people. On this particular Wall Street Journal poll, they broke down things on issues. And the Republicans are projected to be better in most of the important issues that matter to the American people. And by the way, there was a segment in CNN that I saw a bit of it. This young man who does their polling over there, who's very, very good at it. And he was pointing out the Wall Street Journal, but he was saying there are other polls that basically say the same thing, that for whatever reason, and these are his words, not mine, for whatever reason, the Democrats are not connecting with the American people right now. The American people don't see the Democrat, again, based on the polling data, as a party that can get anything done. And maybe the reason for that, is that, they seem to be spending all their time telling us how much they hate Trump. And, the story of the boy who cried wolf, after a while, people just get bored with that. People are saying, do you have something better to say? Or do you have anything different today to say other than you hate Trump, or that Trump's a dictator? I mean, do you have something else that you can tell us? And they really don't. And that's their problem. They have nothing to say other than we hate Trump. And that's not a message that is going to get you very far. And again, it's the story of the boy who cried wolf. After a while, people have tuned you out, just like happened to the boy who cried wolf. So that I think that's their problem. They need to get their act together. And right now, I don't see any evidence that they're doing that. I really don't. I just don't see any evidence that they are getting their act together. And as I mentioned in my post over at the American Thinker, Trump is a very lucky man because he's governing at a time when he's making difficult decisions, but the other side is so far out of it that he's not getting any competition, frankly, from the other side. So, the Democrats have to get their act together. That's all I can say. I had a post over the weekend about gerrymandering. This is when the majority party in a state draws up the districts. Look, the Republicans are obviously going to do whatever they can to gain more seats in Texas and Florida and Ohio, just like the Democrats are going to do it in Illinois and in Maryland. That's just the way politics is. And you can hear all the complaints you want, but that's the way politics has always been played. Whoever has the majority in a state is going to draw up the districts to benefit in charge. So, the Democrats are going to complain. They're doing a lot of complaining here in Texas about it because Texas is in the process of redrawing these districts, but there's not much more they can do than complain. I mean, it's going to get done. And the real problem for them is that they got to start winning some state legislatures. And right now, they're not winning state legislatures. In fact, they're becoming more and more of a party around cities and very much of an identity politics party. The problem is you're not going to win elections across the country with a political party like that. Very interesting situation that I'll briefly mention. I'll bring this up the next time I get together with George Rodriguez and we talk about Texas politics. But Senator Cornyn, who is obviously in a very tough primary with the Attorney General Paxton here in Texas, Senator Cornyn wants to run for re-election and the Attorney General Paxton wants to take him out. Well, Senator Cornyn today came out saying that we should have a special counsel to look into this Russia story, whether or not or how much the Obama administration worked to promote the story that eventually created, the Russian hoax that really tore up this country for a year and a half. And there was nothing to it, but it still tore up the country and did a lot of harm to the country. I don't know if the Trump administration wants to do a special counsel. I think for the moment, they're just going to see what the Department of Justice brings out, what kind of indictments, if there are indictments. I'm not saying that there will be. We'll just have to see what kind of information they have. But I don't see a special counsel right now being appointed. I think it's way too early to go there. Maybe at some point down the road that could happen. But right now, I really don't see the need for it. But I think it's an idea that may come back sometime in the future. Well, thank you for listening. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and if you're a Rangers fan, a Texas baseball fan, the Rangers fan, you're probably pretty lucky. You're pretty not lucky, but you're very happy, I should say, today because the Rangers are winning, and that's a good thing that we can all cheer for. Have a great day, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas.